Yeah. Midday check-in. You already know. Midday Java. Pour it up strong. Half the day gone, but we still on. Midday Java. Talk that truth. Fuel for the grown. Spark for the youth. Yeah. Sun high grind, live city on go. Deadlines, headlines, what you need to know. Health, wealth, culture, power. Real conversations every hour. Sip slow, but the message move fast. We building the future, not stuck in the past. Community rising, voices louder. Midday Java, energy, power. Midday Java, pour it up strong. Pour it up strong.
Second. All right. I'm seeing comments about no sound. Can y'all hear me? Can someone verify whether you can hear me or not? I just need a yes, no in the comments. Good afternoon, Milagro. Good afternoon, Mama Java, Kathy. Can you all hear me? Yes, no. Actually, let me just check it myself. Hold on for 1 second. This is definitely important information. And so we want to definitely make sure we have sound. Hold on for 1 second. There was no sound while I had the flyer up. Okay. Thank you, my sister, Nakia. I appreciate you all. So let's get started. I don't ever do this. Oh, we're not going to start until we get, 20 people in the Java Cafe. Oh, yeah. This information, as much as people do the after watch, this is worth your lunch. So in 2018, for the first time in a long time, the DA seat became what we call an open race. An incumbent, unlike this year, was not running. And so in 2018, around, a lot of the energy, some of Black Lives Matter, a lot of what was going on in the criminal legal system, well, the legal unjust system, I'll frame it like that. There was a lot of advocacy around understanding the difference a DA makes. And so it was imperative that we got that information out to ensure that Suffolk County, counties across the country, there's a county in Philly, I don't know the name of it, Kransberg, I believe, was a progressive attorney that was elected there. And in other counties, there were elections of what we would call progressive attorneys that understand, and I'll just sort of surmise it like this. There was a outcry of Black and brown and marginalized people for district attorneys that would, yes, execute the law, but without the imbalance of the inequities of how the system entreats Black, brown, and marginalized people, and mostly Black people, and don't have a marginalization on top of that. So locally here, Determined Divas form at that time, she was not a city councilor, Julia Mejia, the founder of Determined Divas. The ACLU at that time was Rasan Hall. Also, for the Mass Black Lawyers Association, she had just, I believe, got elected as president of the Mass Black Lawyers Association, and also Curtis Rollins and Kristen Halpert from the Urban League Young Professionals Network, and also Tanisha Sullivan of a iteration of the NAACP. So we came together to ensure that there was information and education about the difference the DA makes. That is why I'm tag a couple of people, go in your comments and put the @ highlight, go in your comments and put the @ followers, go in the comments and put the top fans, tag people, hit share, copy the link, send it to a couple of people's messenger. The information and education that came out of this conversation 8 years ago is still relevant today. You might hear references to things that may be dated as examples. When speaking of that, one thing that is very interesting to me, attorney Sharice Perry made a interesting observation about ICE. And that was 8 years ago. It's interesting to see where we are today with ICE and her comments from back then. So again, go ahead. For all of you that are here now, all of you, have you hit that share button and invited others into this much needed conversation? There is a lot of noise in this DA's race. The most noise that we need to make is in our vote. If you have a policy agreement with either one of the three candidates, vote. There's a lot of noise, but the most noise that needs to be made in this election for the district attorney is our vote. This is information and education that catch my whiff is fine. This is information and education that is imperative to your vote. And so we're going to listen to this conversation and we will be back with you directly after. And let me just pause and say real quick, this is 18. This is 19 months before we started Java with Jimmy. Had a phone, information needed to get out there. We had a former brand called We Need to Know. And so it's just interesting. I just made that observation. So listen in on this conversation again I'm going to do by order of in the room. Kristen Halpert, Tanisha Sullivan. No, Kristen Halpert, Ava at that time Calendar, but now Ava Concepcion, who was a former Cannabis Control commissioner. And then Tanisha Sullivan, Rasan Hall, Julia Mejia, Curtis Rollins, and Sharice Perry are a part of this conversation. Again, hit that share button and invite voters. Invite those that may have been involved with the district attorney's office and that need to vote to be a part of this conversation. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is James Hills. I am here at the United Urban League, the Urban League of Eastern Mass, and we're going to welcome Kristen Halpert from the Urban League, who can clarify the name. I'm just doing a lot of things right now. Kristen, why don't you say hello and welcome everyone?
You are right, James. You are doing the most. But hi, I'm Kristen Halpert. I'm the Civic Engagement Chair for the Young Professionals Network of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. The Urban League is actually one of the oldest direct service providing organizations in the country. We're here at 88 Orange Street in Roxbury, and this center is open 9 to 5 days a week, to make sure that every resident in Boston has the opportunity to overcome any adversity as far as economic diversity or getting a job and that assistance that you might need to really thrive in this market. For Young Professionals Network, we're the volunteer arm 18 to 45, and we're here today with our phenomenal partners because we have something really important to say about the DA's race.
Great. Next, I'm going to introduce to you the president of the Boston chapter of the NAACP, and that is Tanisha Sullivan, and she is going to take the convo from here, and everybody else. Are you introducing, or will they introduce?
I'll go around the
Okay.
table. Look, we're going to be very informal
Yes.
this
Yes.
afternoon because this is a very important conversation, and we want to make sure that this is not caught up in, too much formality. There's too much at stake right now. We need to get down to really brass tacks on what this race really means and what we as a community should be looking for, what we should be expecting from any of the candidates for Suffolk County District Attorney. So I just want to do this real quick so we can jump right into it. You have Sharice Perry here joining us today. You all know Sharice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sharice,
Good
newly
afternoon.
taking the seat for Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association. Curtis Rollins, our ever-present Roxbury community activist, and Julia Mejia from Determined Divas will come back. We're going to skip over, and then Ava Callender is also joining us today. Thank you so much, Ava. You met Kristen, and then of course Rasan Hall. We all know Rasan specifically in this space. Rasan being the director of the Racial Justice Program for the ACLU of Massachusetts. And then James, we want to thank you for pulling us all together, of course, right? Because we do need to know, okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right into this. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about really what difference does a DA make? Why does this matter? Why are we spending so much time talking about this particular race? And some would argue we're spending more time talking about this race than we even spent talking about the mayoral race, right? Or the city council race. So why does this really matter? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we also want to dig a little bit deeper into, what does this mean on the ground for our communities, for Black people, for brown people, for poor people. Recognize they're not the same. Let's be clear on that. Sometimes people get confused. They try to lump us all together. And then also we're going to dive a little bit into the civic engagement piece and why should we care? How do we get engaged? And what does September 4th mean in the context of all this? So I'm going to turn it over to Rasan. We're going to start with, really, you have this campaign, what a difference a DA makes. The question is, what difference does a DA make?
Since we're being informal, let me go
Please,
ahead.
thank you, brother.
Listen, everybody, this is history. Rasan Hall just loosened his bow tie.
That's right.
So the DA makes a tremendous difference in how criminal law gets played out in our communities. I mean, from charging decisions to bail requests to sentencing recommendations to the use of money that is seized from individuals to interfering or supporting or opposing criminal law reform. The district attorney is one of the most powerful individuals in the system that nobody knows about or is really talking about. We did some polling at the ACLU, and we found out that 4 in 10 Massachusetts voters did not know that the district attorney is an elected official, right? And so, and that's proven out when you look at the times district attorneys have had challengers in the last 20 years. 77% of district attorney races have been uncontested, right? So these people get appointed most of the time, and then they may have a race where there might be a challenger, but after that, there's no challenger. So for Dan Conley, for instance, was appointed in 2002 when Ralph Martin retired, and then he had some challengers in 2004 at the end of that term, the next election, and he won that. And from 2004, since then, he has not had a challenger. So there's no opportunity for the public to engage and hear about what the policy priorities are for that office, or if there are concerns that the community has, how can he be held accountable? Because the district attorneys are answerable to no one but the voters.
Julia?
Wow. And so help us understand, as a person who is not familiar with the law at all, what does this look like on an everyday basis? Can you help us understand?
Sure. I mean, what it is, district attorneys are charged with being ministers of justice, right? It's not about getting convictions. Oftentimes they will present themselves or talk about their role as being the voice of victims in the criminal justice system. And so what that looks like is when people are arrested and charged with offense, district attorneys, their office, and the people that work for them are responsible for prosecuting those cases. And so when a person comes to court, the district attorney will ask for a bail to be set. As the case moves through the system, the district attorney has a responsibility to turn the evidence over to the person who's charged with the crime. but also has a responsibility to work with the victims of the crime, to give them information about what's happening in the case, but also to try to find out how's the best way to resolve the case. Sometimes what the victim wants is what the district attorneys try to do. Other times they don't care what the victim wants. And then once cases are resolved, they're responsible for making recommendations of how cases are resolved, what type of sentence recommendation gets made. But when we think about mass incarceration in this country, district attorneys have a huge role because they request bail. Even though the judge sets the bail, it's the district attorney who makes the bail request that the judge decides from. And a lot of times people plead guilty because they're being held on bail and they want to wrap up their case. They decide what charges go forward. Sometimes they charge people with a lot, sometimes they charge them with a little. They decide, like I said, who gets diverted, right? Because there's some cases they don't need to be in court. Somebody has a substance use issue, they should be diverted to a program. Somebody has a mental health issue, they should be diverted to a program. Young people, children, young adults, they should be given an opportunity to take advantage of programming that is, consistent with the things that they need. So those kind of on a day-to-day basis.
I have one more question.
Okay.
So a lot of Latinos in particular, especially those who are undocumented or navigating the immigration space, they don't understand how this impacts them. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So district attorneys have an important role to play with a lot of the cases that come through those courts. I mean, certainly an arrest in and of itself is enough to trigger notification to ICE. But once somebody is in the court, district attorneys have the opportunity to dismiss or get rid of cases. And so if people are being held on cases, that gives opportunity for ICE to show up and to take somebody into custody. And mind you, people go to court for minor things like traffic offenses, simple drug possession, trespassing, things like that, that don't cause harm. And then also when they're making bail requests, the district attorneys in some instances have asked folks to surrender their passports if they see that the person is from another country. But if someone is undocumented, they're not going to have a passport to surrender. And that can be used as a way to notify that the person is undocumented and can be in communication with ICE agents. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so what I'm hearing, Rasan, is that the district attorney and the district attorney's office has a tremendous amount of power when it comes to the freedom that people enjoy.
Absolutely.
Okay, and what I'm hearing is that whether we're talking about what happens once someone is arrested, all the way through a potential conviction, this one individual has a significant amount of power to determine whether someone goes home, whether they go home, and when they go home.
Yes.
And so what we know when we look at certainly mass incarceration, the data is the data. We know that Black and brown people, men as well as women, are over incarcerated in this country, but we're talking about here in the Commonwealth and specifically in the county. So what that makes me think about, Sharice, is really the character of the person who will be filling this role, the demonstrated values or articulated values that this person holds, their judgment, their experience, all of that being critically important when we start to think about who is best suited for filling this position. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that there are a variety of, as you mentioned, all of those criteria. As the leader in the office of 200 staff, right? Your ability to be a tremendous leader, to empower your staff, to do the right thing, to want to roll out the implementation of different policies. And I think another really challenging role that a district attorney has is to hold police accountable. It is tremendously difficult to be in that space and to both kind of operate as an individual and as an office, and to be impartial in the space and upholding justice. But I think that over years and years, there's developed an allegiance with the police in terms of carrying out issues. I think the ICE issue is detrimental to the community. Just recently at the federal court, we had someone that was apprehended as soon as they came out. There are a lot of instances of people of color and ICE agents going into the court, waiting outside of the court. So, you know, you have to really have a level of confidence and just momentum and management and leadership skills to really kind of exist in that particular space. We have the new criminal justice reform. That is going to cause a lot of immediate implementation, that's for one. And then there are a variety of things and benchmarks that have to be met over a period of time. The governor is looking at adding in his own act to do some clarification. So, you know, your ability to understand and from a legal perspective what that means, but also being sure that what you're rolling out, the community engagement component of that, making sure the community is aware of what your office does, that there's a level of trust by the community about what your office does, and that you're there, that you're looking at restorative justice, you're looking at progressive policies to kind of really look at what is the issue in the criminal justice system and how do we really make a difference, and how do we make changes, and how do we roll out things that are truly beneficial for the community.
Absolutely. And so, Curtis, we know particularly within Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, we've been focused for quite some time on the violence, the surge in violence that our communities have been experiencing. And for all of us, it's critically important. I think sometimes people think, you know, that as a Black community specifically, or as a Latino community, that we're not as concerned about safety as we are. I think the Himes Foundation, the most recent report, showed that 16% of Black folk, voting Black people in this area, are concerned about safety in our communities. And so public safety is of critical concern to us. And so when we think about the district attorney, the office of the district attorney, how do you think, or what do you think the district attorney's office should be doing specifically in Black and brown communities to help ensure that our communities are safe?
The office should be aligning itself, or hopefully aligning itself in terms of its philosophy with everybody that it's over, not just in particular areas. So personally, I really understand that the people in Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, we're conservative when it comes to public safety. And if you don't know the difference between conservative and liberalism, nobody likes to get knocked over the head. Nobody likes to get their money taken from them. So they're very conservative in that aspect, that they don't want that to happen. With that also said, the community is made up of human beings, and a lot of times the because of what Sharice had mentioned, and also with what we know, that instead of the district attorney's office being the checks and balance when it comes to in the criminal justice system, it decides to align itself in a certain way, and then we have we have Bostonian mentalities from a lot of people that feel that only they are able to have a 1630 frame of mind, and those people that are not in it are
With the
not.
1630
Yeah, I know,
frame of mind.
Oh, well, 1630 is when Boston was founded. So,
Curtis is being very formal, everyone. I'm really enjoying
let
this
me say-
presentation.
Formal, or you
let me
being
say that.
informal?
No, the cat has been out of the bag. This city has always tried to, or is looking to celebrate its 400-year birthday in 2030. And we've noticed how our community, and I really don't want to get off tangent, but our community has not been a part of that 2030 process. And it also has shown regarding this office that they are going to make sure that there aren't a lot of people within the city of Boston, so that those, you know, whether it's the housing, whether it's the criminal justice, whether it's all connected.
It is all connected.
And
That's good, Curtis.
it doesn't get jumbled up. It's really simple. They don't want your black ass and brown ass into the in Boston when it comes to it's milestones coming up.
Okay,
What
so-
you want to do is just, to wrap it up, what you want to do is make sure that that doesn't happen. And how you can do that is participating in voting and making sure that those people that don't want your black and brown self here are not in a position to say that you're not here and to say, I want this person because they want me here.
That's right. And so I didn't want to cut you off. I actually want to expand the conversation on this because, and it is, I want to stay on public safety again because I think it needs to be real clear that we are just as concerned as a community about public safety as anybody else.
Very
okay?
conservative.
And so concerned. We are concerned. Because, and for us, again, as black and brown people specifically, we don't have the luxury of solely focusing on the victim aspect of this. We also have to focus on those who are disproportionately impacted by the system. We've got to focus on both, right? So this is Suffolk County, which includes more than just the city of Boston, right? And so again, when we look at public safety, thinking about Eastie, thinking about Chelsea, right? Thinking about the very real challenges that are going on in those communities, specifically around gang violence, right? We saw there was a big federal case that was just, that was just wrapped up recently. Was it M13? MS-13. Okay, that's real. Right? And there's fear in those communities as well. And this district attorney has responsibility for ensuring the safety of those communities too. So how do we make sure from a civic engagement standpoint that when we are having these conversations, that we are not just solely focusing on what's happening here in the city of Boston, but we're also being mindful of our brothers and sisters who are in these other communities who need this district attorney decision to be the right district attorney decision for their communities as well. How do we do that?
I think it really comes down to the idea of engagement, and not just civic engagement, but personal engagement. So many times, especially here in Boston, we are so segregated, even not just segregated between black and white, but we're segregated between rich and poor, between our neighborhoods, even between our blocks. That even if you go to a neighborhood association and you're hearing about something that is a problem for you, they may not even get to discuss it or even think that it's a problem for them 3 blocks over. And it is certainly a problem for them, or it might become a problem for them. So we've definitely got to start talking with each other more, but it's worthless to just talk without actually having knowledge, which is why situations like this are so important. Because we cannot just simply vote on feelings. We have to vote on actual data and facts. These are candidates for elective office. That means that these people have put out platforms. These people are telling you what they feel, what they plan to do, and what they want to do. And you are going to put them in that office or you are not. So it is definitely part of our responsibility to learn what that means, not just for how it's going to impact our community, but think when we vote for this person, what is that going to mean for the community next door for me? What is that going to mean if my community changes over the next couple of years? Do I want to be responsible for that? How can I have a whole conversation instead of just a my backyard conversation?
I'd like to add a comment to that.
Okay, Ava.
So this is something that was alluded to by different people throughout this table, but understanding the overall implications of what the DA's decisions make. And so when we think about the criminal justice system, you think about there's front end, there's the middle, there's back end. And I know that there's a lot of victim-centered perspectives, but a lot of the people, if you are convicted and then sentenced and you serve time, you're coming back to our communities.
That's right.
So it's important to keep that in mind. These are still people who come back and they want to contribute. So making sure that that is also considered.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
Just add to piggyback off of that is that I feel like sometimes through the candidate discussions that it feels like we're focusing, and as people of color, we want to focus on just our Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, but also being mindful that candidates that are selected for these positions have to be able to help Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, Rosendale, Hyde Park, West Roxbury, Chelsea. And so you have to broaden the perspective and broaden the understanding of all of those communities, of the young people, of the high schoolers, of the elderly, the housing issues, and so it's just, I want to make sure that it's clear that people understand that it's whether it's a black or it's a white, if it's a Cape Verdean, it's a Korean, whatever the demographic of that individual that is running, that their ability has to be able to reach the entire Suffolk County community and the extension of that.
Absolutely, Julia.
So the only thing that I would mention in terms of like civic engagement is all up in my face. So the only thing that I would like to mention around the civic engagement piece is that because this is new,
Yep.
even though people vote all the time, this is like the first time that I feel like anyone's really paying attention
right.
of how important this is. So what I'm thinking about in terms of civic engagement is adding the importance of this when we're asking people to register to vote, when we're telling them to go. And don't forget, you're also voting for a DA, and this is why. So I think that we need to spend this summer really helping people understand what they're going to the polls for. It's not just for the Suffolk County or the other races that are happening, but this one is one of those that is going to make a difference, and here's how. And I think we need to personalize it a little bit more,
Yep.
because as someone, like I said earlier, unless I know how this is going to impact my own backyard, I'm going to be like, oh, well, you know, I'll vote for whoever, right? But we also as a community need to recognize that we have 5 or 6 people of color running. I don't think one white person, I don't know. Two. Oh, we got 2 white people running? Okay. There's 3 white
3
people.
now?
3
Oh,
of
3
color.
white
3
people.
people of color.
Oh, 3
And two.
people.
3 people of color and now 3 white people.
4, maybe.
Oh,
4.
okay.
4 people of paper.
Okay,
Has
well,
anyone made the ballot yet, though?
Well, okay.
So,
But the point
but my
being,
point
yes.
is that I think as someone who, while I'm always trying to get people out there to vote, I think that people are going to ask a lot of questions about
That's right.
who's the best fit, and we need to be able to at least be able to have a criteria or some sort. So this is what it looks like. This is how it's going to impact your everyday life. Because unless we have that in terms of tools and language to
Right.
work with, we're not going to be able to
I think that's
drive
absolutely
that.
right, and so it's the registration, education, and then mobilizing people, right? And all of our organizations have a role to play in that, but this can't just be organizational focus, right? There's got to be a real grassroots movement to this too, where we're giving our community an opportunity to ask critical questions. So that we can elevate our understanding. My hope is that this will also serve as a platform for how we handle our these campaigns going forward. Because the DA's race, as Rasan mentioned, look, we have a candidate we have a district attorney who has been uncontested for the past 10 years, 14 years. That's significant, and that should not be, okay? And so, but he's not the only one, and we can't blame anyone but ourselves for that. Right, and so meaning we have to be willing to step up to run for these positions, and certainly it takes a lot of courage to do so. So I'm happy about all of the candidates who are running.
Tanisha, I'm sorry, can I chime in one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Julia was talking about civic engagement.
Yep.
One of the things that we have to keep in mind is that September 4th election is the day after Labor Day. And as we know, the way that is set up, there's a lot of other races that Julia talked about that's going on, but usually races set up like that the day after a holiday. We know that we sometimes as people of color will not go out the day after Labor Day. Everybody's had the cookouts and we've done what we needed to do for Labor Day, and then you expect us to get up and vote. So an incumbent knows that favorably, disproportionately impacts communities of color, but it's also favorable towards an incumbent. So can Curtis a little bit maybe talk about just the importance of us getting out, and I'll throw it right back to you, Tanisha. The importance of us as people of color across the diaspora actually getting out to vote, no matter what the day before is, September 4th, we need to get out and vote.
All I can sum up and say that, there are rules to this game of life. I don't want to sound like the company, but there literally are rules to this game of life.
Especially in Boston. Mm-hmm.
Definitely in Boston, especially in Boston.
Boston Poly.
And part of those rules are, if you don't lend your voice to somebody that plans on representing you, you can't really complain about what the situations that you're going through because you had an opportunity in order to express yourself. That's what voting is. So when a lot of people say, oh, I don't express my vote, you're not going to win every time that I'm not going to pick between A and B and I choose A, and A is not going to win every time. you will want it to, but that's not the way that it happens. But as long as you're engaged, B recognizes that. These politicians recognize that. And even if the candidate that you selected or you voted for does not win, you can then say and have the ear of the person that did, hopefully, and say, I have this group of people that even though my person or the person that I wanted to vote for did not win, we still have these issues. Those issues didn't go away in that vote. And you will want to continue to make sure that that person does it, because if they do not, you then have the evidence and you have the strength to say to other people that did vote for B, your way didn't work out. Here's the evidence of it not working out. Y'all, let's go this route. Now, again,
And so, and this is great, and the conversation continues, and the conversation will continue over the next few months. I think that's what's most important. The September 4th date, James, as you mentioned, is critically important. Look, this is a situation where, depending upon who ultimately gets in the race and gets on the ballot, it is very likely that we may have a situation where we have a full slate of Democratic candidates, right? Which means that September 4th primary is critically important. November is not the date. It's September 4th.
It may be the date.
That may be the date, because what will happen is, if we only have, at this point in time, the way things are, certainly people can get in the race later. If things stay the way they are, we've got 5, perhaps 6 Democratic candidates running for the primary nomination. That means only one wins. And if there's nobody else running, that's it.
That means September 4th is it?
September 4th will be the date.
So it's not a primary or a preliminary.
So it is a primary, but the primary will be determinative of
Right.
of the ultimate outcome. So we'll continue to do certainly forums and education sessions. Rasan's going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but it's going to be really important for us to keep our eye on the ball to see how all of this unfolds. Who ends up running will matter, because September 4th, as of today, is the date. It is not November. It's September 4th. So we've got to make sure that we're not just registering, that we're not just holding these conversations, but we're actually getting to the polls and supporting our community to get to the polls for September 4th. Rasan.
www.dadifference.org to find out more about what district attorneys do, why they're important. Go to that website, sign up for information, check the events calendar. One of the important dates, in addition to the September 4th date, is June 7th. The What a Difference a DA Makes campaign and our network of partners will be hosting a candidate forum in the heart of Roxbury at the historic Hibernian Hall. June 7th, mark that date. There will be other candidate forums, and that's going to be a debate. It's nice to have a candidate forum to hear what the candidates have to say about what they feel and what they like. A debate is a different type of conversation where they're being held to account on the things that they've done, the things that they've said. And so we're looking forward to digging deeper. There's a lot of other opportunities to engage. There are court watch trainings to find out what's actually happening in our courtrooms. And you can go to our website and find out more information about the court watch training. There are community public education forums that we'll be doing. Go to the website. You can reach out. You can schedule one if you feel like there are people in your community that need to learn this information to be prepared for that September 4th date so that they can make an informed and educated vote. Reach out. Folks at this table, the folks at the What a Difference a DA Makes campaign are more than willing to come out and engage with you and let you know the importance about the role, the power, and the influence of the district attorney. And when it's all said and done, we hope that you understand what a difference a DA makes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Go ahead. We're about to wrap up. Just want to say, everyone say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. We want to thank our partners from the Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association, the Young Professionals Network of the Urban League of Eastern Mass, of course, the Difference in the ACLU of Massachusetts, our NAACP, as well as our resident that is here, and more YPN representation as well. Thank you all so much. Please stay tuned as more dates are set, and we'll get more information out there. Thank you. So that was, excuse me, our conversation with those partners that we named. And I put a couple of polls in today's conversation, and I would love if you all would take a moment and put your 1 or 2. And what the poll says is, are you hearing this level of information for this year's DA race? I believe it was Sharice that made reference to the debates and Rasan, I believe talked about it as well. But this session that we had they used prime examples. To hear Sharice talk about ICE in 2018, to hear one of the other folks talk about the level of violence that was going on, and where we are now, is interesting. Yes, the numbers were greater in 2018, but where we are now, the sentiment that many of us have in community is very comparable to that. So, do you feel that there has been this level of information? My understanding is that the ACLU is doing a similar session to this very soon. And so you want to go to their website. I will go find it right now. Before I go there, I just wanted to mention to you all what I'm not hearing anything about this year's DA race. Catch My Wit is saying, I'm not hearing anything about this year's DA race. So there's a lot out there with the debates and some interesting, things in the news. I said noise in my opening statement. What I will say in my closing statement is the noise, again, that we need to make is in our votes. It was talked about in that conversation. And then if there are candidates that you support their policies very strongly, either through your experience, an experience of a member of your family, or just the observation of inequity in the system, there are things like door knocking. There are things like phone banking. There are things that you want to do to ensure that you get voters out. I will go ahead and say, and I've said this about every election, before we need to know, since I've become astute in this space, vote. No matter what, vote. And if you don't support any of the candidates, you have the option to write in a name, or you have an option to don't write in a name, write none. In this time, in this country, when we are currently under attack for our right to vote, there are a lot of marginalized communities, but there's a target on the backs of Black people in a lot of the state's decisions around voting, how we vote, when we vote, what we can do while we're waiting to vote. So take advantage of it. The fact that there's so much dialogue in the Supreme Court, there is risk that the level of freedom that we have with our ability to exercise our right to vote could be put at greater risk. Vote. So I got some comments, but go ahead and put the 1s and 2s in the comments in reference to if you feel, and I just want to mention that a couple of people have mentioned that they voted already. Sister Debbie mentioned that she sent in her ballot. Dina said, I think in the beginning that hold on, I thought I saw her say that she sent in her ballot already. Maybe that was on another show, on an earlier show today, but I wanted to make sure that we shared this information today. Good morning, good afternoon, rather, Ms. Teresa. I wanted to make sure that we share that information. Most candidates of all races this year. One thing I will notice with that comment, specifically in the DA's race, I have to celebrate the fact, despite of everything that's going on and a lot of the noise that's being made in this race, all 3 of the final candidates are Black. That's dope. All 3 have different life experience. All 3 represent that we as Black people are not a monolith, in the fact that there are different segments of the Black community that's supporting all 3 candidates. How you can support whose policies you support as the district attorney is to get your happy self up on September and vote. We make plans to go to the club. We make plans for restaurants. We make plans for birthday parties, graduations, proms, and bar mitzvahs too. Well, maybe not bar mitzvahs. But listen, make plans to vote. Inquire of your place of employment. Do they give you a half day off to go and vote? Make plans to go and vote in every election. Become a super voter. That's my commentary for today. So I'm like my mother. I like to go vote. And that is not to disparage anyone that mails in, votes early. Voting early is physically you're going in to vote. It's a different process. I don't like it. The envelopes and I like to go into the ballot, take my little pen, take a picture of my ballot. So but however you do it, mail in, early, old school, vote. Okay. Nicole says she's usually the first one in line. I'm never the first, but I will tell you that I'm always looking at the number when I put my ballot in. And I'm like, oh, the numbers are so low. I'm not going to get into that. I have a meeting that I have to get ready to prepare for. So I'm in Middlesex, so apologies for my comments being out of place for your area. No problem, catch my whiff. I was wondering, I was like, wait a minute, there's been a lot. Suffolk? Oh, God, there's a lot of, yeah. Today, our purpose was to provide information from those that were a part of the conversation about the difference the DA makes, okay? Don't forget, as I said earlier this morning, please keep in mind that on Thursday, September 10th, beginning at 5 p.m., we will celebrate Black Joy Java. If you did not get the understanding of what that day is about, go back and watch today's episode toward the end as we got to chat with Thaddeus Miles, the curator of Black Joy, and yours truly, the host of Java with Jimmy. Coming together with the ICA and definitely celebrating 5 years of the Coalition for a Resilient and Inclusive Waterfront as well. And my 5-year anniversary of doing a show at ICA, like on the waterfront. I need to find that episode and play that because it was nice that day. So, all right, I'm out of here. We will see you on Monday at 10 a.m. Please also keep in mind that the Java Cafe will be closed for a week and a day. Beginning on Monday, August 24th, we will return on Tuesday, September 1st on Election Day. And keep in mind that Thursday, September 3rd, will be our first show back at GBH. So thank you all for coming in for Midday Java this afternoon. And I will see you Monday